Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Welcome. This is the Sports Trapp Podcast. My name is Trapp. And as always, my road dog, my main man, to my left on my screen, or right on my screen, Mr. Christopher C-Rod Rodriguez. How you doing, sir?
What it do, man? I just trying to get rid of this fly that's behind me, man. God damn it. Fuck.
And as always, Khoa, where am I at on your screen, man? Because you're the one recording. Am I up, down,
You're top left or right. You're down here. There you go. Oh,
there you are.
The other way.
How you doing, sir? Man,
the other way. You were right. You were right the first time.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Man, John's never
way
been.
To go is up now, huh?
John's never been good at directions. Trust me, I know this.
Hey, man. Only man alive that can say that because you've known me for so long. Yes, sir. People, we have had to come to the fruition of the NFL draft. Either way you look at it, it's a surprise that they even put this thing together. Basically doing the same thing we're doing in a Zoom meeting. Everybody's drafting in a Zoom meeting. Mr. Roger Goodell pulling all the strings in from his own place and home, even doing a little shuffle. You see that for your boy, your Alabama boy, Jared Judy, Chris? Shout out. So we got a little Texas drafts to talk about. Right. Chris, who you got behind your shoulder, man? Who you trying to slide away?
The COVID-19, a.k.a. Bill O'Brien.
GM, by the way. So the man pulling all the strings for the Houston Texans. And also, we got a little NBA to talk about. You see James Harden, you see Russell Westbrook. They're still working out. Is there going to be a season, Chris?
As of right now, I hope so, because James Harden looks like he's in the best shape he's ever been. I mean, he's out there running in sand. I'm ready. Remember I told you, I'm not for the season if James Harden's getting fat. But if
well, the strip clubs are shut down. Let's be honest here.
That's a good point.
And LeBron James says that nobody wants to cancel the season altogether. Everybody wants to end the season. So we're gonna see what happens. Little tidbit, little fly on the wall speculation is they might have a little bubble season in Las Vegas, but we'll see what comes of that. And fellas, the Last Dance, the greatest, now surpasses the Tiger King special on Netflix, the greatest documentary, the most watched documentary of all time on ESPN. Yes, sir, The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, 1997-98 season. The last of the 6 champions. Hey, we got to see Dennis Rodman in the flesh. Some of the stories we never heard before. That was classic. And we also got to mentally picture Carmelo Electra being terrified and naked under the covers, hiding from Michael Jordan. That was classic. And also Phil Jackson. We all know he's possibly the greatest coach of all time. So those 2 episodes were classic episodes. Can't wait. We're not even halfway through, but Sunday is going to be 5 and 6. So, hey, man, we got plenty to discuss about. Got this 30-minute time limit that Zoom locks us in. So we'll get all that in this little time and space. We got to go. Chris, take it over from here, sir.
Well, before I get started, as usual, we have a new sponsor. I want to go ahead and give it this. This show is definitely sponsored by our good folks at Germex Moisturizing.
Where did you find that? It's sold out everywhere.
You got to go to Target. It's right there. One per customer.
It's like $25 a bottle.
Yeah, man. You know what? Actually, Germex sent it because they're a fan of our show. They love the fact that, we care about keeping everything sanitized. Not only does it keep your hands sanitized, but in case you want to keep a sanitary jerk, you can always go with this bad boy too. Shout out.
I hope you're talking about attitude and not, the subliminal there.
You can take it however you want it. Either way it goes, you got to keep it clean.
Hey, you got to keep that chicken clean, huh?
Anyways. Clean. So So yeah, basically, I guess I think everybody woke up to all the messages when we found out that Laramie Tunsil got the biggest contract of all time for any offensive lineman, $22 million for the next 3 years. That's $66 million with $50 million guaranteed. So basically, when you break it down, like you said, Laramie Tunsil is our draft because we gave up 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and over $50 million in guaranteed money for the next 3 years. So I guess what I would say is, question is, did we get fleeced? Do you think that we actually, overpaid, or do you think that we paid what we needed to pay?
So in a draft situation, like a normal draft situation, so you got somebody like Joe Burrow, right? What is he getting paid? What in comparison to what Laramie Tunsil gets paid, right? So he gets $50 million guaranteed, 66 over 3 years. Is that something comparable to what a quarterback like Joe Burrow is going to get paid? Because if that's the case, then it makes sense in a sense of like we gave up 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder, and we got a wide receiver in Kenny Stills to go with that. So was it worth it? I would say this. I'd rather have to pay somebody that I've seen play, is in my facilities. I get to see how he works out. I get to see his attitude. I get to see tape on him. Did I say practice? I get to see his health records. And if I think that he's worth the contract, especially since it's his first contract past his rookie contract, is it I get to be the best barometer of what he's actually worth, So I'd rather have that situation set up than say like a free agent that I've never had in my building other than maybe a couple meetings, possibly at this point over the phone, over Zoom, and you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know his health records other than maybe a physical that he comes in for after you sign him, after you sign him. So, I don't know, man. He's not a bust. You paid for a premium product that you, I guess, think that he's a premium product, but you've given up draft picks, which you didn't have a draft pick this year. So if he's your first round draft pick, that to me, that looks pretty good if you put it in those terms. Now, did you see the 49ers? Did you see that they got Trent Williams?
Yeah.
And so, and they didn't have to give up too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a 5th round pick for Trent Williams, who had basically been disgruntled with the Washington Redskins, didn't want to play. I think he even sat out the year, or he has sat out before because his attitude is kind of funky. But I mean, when you look at it, those type of situations, who do you think got the better end of the stick? You know what I mean? You said that Laramie Tunsil was the highest paid offensive lineman as far as his contract's concerned ever?
Ever. History. No offensive tackle has ever gotten $22 million for 3 years. And we got to remember, this is not like it's a new contract per se, and it's an extension of his contract. So, I mean, $50 million guaranteed and $40 million due at signing. And all I got to say is this. So who's wearing the bong mask now? That's all I got to say. And I find it very interesting because Laramie Tunsil, I said this last year when we made that trade. And this goes all the way back to when the Texans didn't address through free agency as well as the draft for the most part of getting a left tackle. They kind of put a Band-Aid on a sore wound, especially with Hopkins having the most sacks the year prior. Also, all that stuff fell through. The fact that we were too busy trying to steal a Patriots general manager or one of their executives and the organization, we ended up not having a general manager. So,
hey, did you see your boys pop up on the screen in the Zoom meeting? You know who was drafting with Bill Belichick?
Besides the dog?
Right? No, it was the guy we were trying to get.
Yeah. I mean, I think here's my thing. I'm gonna make this. So I guess the good thing about all this is that at least we can say we no longer have a subpar tackle to protect our best quarterback, our best weapon, right?
Right.
I think that's the most important thing. So I want to emphasize that with all costs, we cannot allow Deshaun Watson to take hits. My only issue is, and I talked about this last year, is that Peter King wrote an article in Sports Illustrated talking about that you could tell that Bill O'Brien had no earthly idea about what it means to be a general manager, because when they made that trade, they should have made sure that he actually extended that contract so we could have still had him, that he would have been able to still sign off on that trade, but we wouldn't have to, and he even mentions in the article, knowing the Texans' luck, watch Laramie Tunsil have his best year, which was his best year last year as a Pro Bowler, and watch, because they didn't get that extension signed immediately on that trade, that he's going to ask the whole world. And that's pretty much what he did. And I guess a thing that bothers me the most is that I understand that we need to sign Laramie Tunsil because his rookie contract was expiring. But I wish that we would have made sure that Deshaun Watson was signed first. And the way I look at it is that Deshaun Watson's still not signed, and you gave up his best weapon and his best friend, who was also a college mate with him in Clemson. I mean, it just makes me feel a certain way. Again, I don't want to be too negative because at the end of the day, Deshaun Watson is protected, but it just feels like with all these subliminal messages that Deshaun Watson has been, tweeting, it just really makes me feel that Deshaun Watson doesn't have trust with Bill O'Brien and the organization moving forward. And
now, I want to get into a little bit of the Texans draft itself.
Yeah.
So here, let me see. We
got Ross Blacklock with the number 2, the 40th pick overall. I think the kid out of TCU, I think the kid's special just because of his speed and the fact that he is from Mo City, so he is a Houston native. So they definitely address defensive tackle, especially with DJ Reader. They're allowing DJ Reader to go. And I think a big surprise pick, which I was actually pretty excited about in the round 3, was Jonathon Grenard, linebacker from Florida. That boy is super fast, super athletic. He's actually somebody that you can actually put in coverage. And with the offensive schemes now, definitely throwing those tight ends out there like Kelsey, good Lord. You're gonna need somebody athletic that can stop that. I even like the Charlie Heck, offensive tackle from North Carolina, big guy. He's like 6'8", just a big workhorse from your favorite school, North Carolina. I think those 3 picks are pretty decent considering where they picked them. But then after that, it just gets retarded. Like we picked
let me ask you this: when the Houston Texans draft, and I believe in when a team, you and me were talking about this too, when a team drafts and the way they draft, it tells you what they feel like their team needs, right? Like their deficiencies, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, they drafted a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a cornerback, right? Those 3 picks right there, all defense. Especially when you have to play somebody like a Baltimore Ravens and also the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's all offense based. That says a lot when when what you had to go through, especially with the Kansas City Chiefs on that side. Our defense fell apart in the second half. Whether you think it's one way or another, we just didn't have enough defense to stop them. Do you think overall that was a successful draft?
Well, I just want to correct you really fast. We drafted a defensive tackle and then a linebacker with our first 2 picks. After that, it was an offensive lineman, and then
John Reed.
I know, but he was number 4th pick.
He was a 4th round pick.
I know, but I'm saying before John Reed, we actually picked up an offensive tackle. So it was.
You're right.
So what I'm saying is that I would have been super excited. Like I said, the first 2 picks were great. You got to understand, the Houston Texans were 26th last year in sacks. Horrible. We were not able to actually make contact with the quarterback whatsoever.
Shout out Clowney.
Yeah, shout out Clowney. I was super excited, like I said, about those first two picks. Even the offensive lineman, I was happy with. But then when we've had so many cornerback issues, you go and draft an undersized cornerback. It reminds me of Kevin Johnson all over again. Super small, just fast. Not only that, but he's from Penn State, and Bill O'Brien recruited him out of high school. In this league, when you have such phenomenal wide receivers that play physical, you need someone that can play physical. You need someone that is not under 6 foot, that can actually get into some of these wide receivers' asses. I was very disappointed with that cornerback position, just because.
Is that Eric Reed's and what's his name?
Nope.
Jared Reed's.
Not
That's
at all.
not
Not
their
related.
brother.
Nope, not at all. I double checked that for you because I knew that.
I think you just said it. Well, he recruited him
Right.
out of high school, right?
Right.
So don't you think he has like an affinity for him?
I think he's just looking for somebody that's just going to be a yes sir, no sir type of player at the end of the day. I mean, hey, I think at the end of the day, I think we talked about this too. Bill O'Brien has emphasizing that he's going to do what's best for the team. At the end of the day, and I'm going to live by this. I feel like Bill O'Brien does what's best for his own ego. So what's best for his own ego. And so he's going to pick players from this point on that he's going to feel like they know where they belong in the scale of things, from the totem pole. So I don't think he wants too many people with too much flash. I think he's the only person with flash. And then shout out, since we're going to talk about the draft, he was the most embarrassing thing in the draft because a trade didn't go down, and then he loses it on live television in front of his kids. And of course, that's Bill O'Brien, our head coach, or Bill O'Brien, the GM. I don't know who it was, but it was another embarrassing moment where this guy can't control his anger or his professionalism. And to me, that just speaks louder. And I wonder how it really is in the actual locker room with Bill O'Brien.
So how important do you think drafts are to teams in the overall scheme? Because we drafted 2 offensive linemen right off the bat last year, and we'll see, if they become actually anything in great. But after that, it was just pretty much, we haven't heard of anything in the draft past the first pick of the draft last year. So teams like Cincinnati and Cleveland, where the draft hasn't been the best, I guess, source of talent for them. Don't you think that the draft is overrated a little bit?
Not at all. I think the people who say that the draft is overrated is because their teams keep sucking in the draft, and these teams are still horrible. I think if you're a fan of teams like the Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers, even the Cowboys, I think that you're always super excited and profoundly happy about the draft because your team's going to go out there and get stud players that's going to either help with the right now or actually build for the future. And a shout out to the 49ers. They've done a really good job the last 5 years, really stockpiling drafts and drafting correctly and getting some super talented players. It's what led them to get to the Super Bowl. So I think that, if you're a Texans fan, because somebody told me recently this week that the draft is overrated because, it's basically 50-50. Yeah, you're right. It's 50-50 when basically that's how your GM and his coaches draft. You gotta understand, when Bill O'Brien first came to the NFL, his first draft pick was actually number 1 Clowney. Now, everybody didn't want to touch Clowney, but he pretty much didn't have a choice. But I still remember how much I really wanted Aaron Donald. He was in that draft. We could have easily picked up Aaron Donald, who's been one of the most efficient defensive linemen in the league. So it really boils down to having a really good team. When I say a really good team, having a good team of scouts and analysts and coaches, and really doing your due diligence and looking at your needs. And you look at Bill Belichick. I know that's who Bill O'Brien wants to be like. Bill Belichick is going to find the best players that fit his offensive or defensive identity. And that's another thing that has, I guess, is always alarming with the Texans. We still don't have an identity. We still don't know how we want to be offensively, and we still don't know want to be defensively. So it always feels like we're just picking whoever's the best on the board, and we're just going to just fit it in, and hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, well, we'll just cut them. That's pretty much how the Texans roll.
So who do you think actually won the draft?
Oh, man. I got to give a shout-out to Minnesota Vikings. They had the most draft picks in the history of the NFL draft, 14 picks, and they used them really well. They got some good stars in there.
Well, if it's 50-50, then they got 7 good draft picks.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's seven, and they have a lot of needs. You know, they definitely – and shout out to their general manager who got a first-round pick for their wide receiver, because I know
shout out Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. I think I want to say, honestly, I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear this, but Cowboys really lucked out. They really got – I was so pissed off. I'm like, man, if this fool gets CeeDee Lamb, I'm be so pissed off. And not only did they get CeeDee, but they also got a good cornerback in Ruggs, who I was hoping that the Texans would pick up because he did get down there later in the second round. But, man, a lot of teams did really well. A lot of teams fulfilled a lot of needs. The Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, we're talking about like a rich man's world, because they just got richer. They really didn't need to address offensive and defensive. Well, for the most part, Kansas City probably need to address more defense, but they just added more offensive weapons from Mahomes to throw it to. And then the Ravens got better in the run game, and they added more defensive players. So, I mean, it's going to be –
Lamar Jackson and Patrick Holmes, just, two people that didn't need more riches. They just got, like you said, richer. So I want to change a little bit, go a different route now that we covered the NFL draft. So the NBA looks like possibly restarting the season. They got something like, all the players are showing that they're still staying in shape. LeBron James is coming out and saying that everybody he's talked to still they want to finish the season. There's even talks about where the NBA is going to push next season back to December. That way this season can play out. Chris, you sent me a link to MGM Grand offering their entire facility in Las Vegas, which is impressive in itself, because MGM Grand is saying they will house them, they will feed them, they will keep them in essentially a bubble where they're going to produce 24 courts for the players to practice and play on. Not only that, not only for the players, but for the coaches and their families as well. So with that being said, Chris, do we have a chance? Do we have a possibility of actually having a full season play out with or without fans? Apparently it's going to be without fans.
Man, it looks like it's going to go down that road. And man, what a strategic move by Vegas. You got to think about this. Right now they have nobody in the casinos, right, because of COVID-19. But, man, if you get all the rest of the teams to actually play and play out this season, that has to be $1 billion worth of salaries. And they're going to be in there gambling and spending money. Besides also
that's like the richest of sports players, at least. All in one place, man. And then their families and all the other people too that are there. So, I mean, I think it's very strategic, but I think Last Dance has really has everybody kind of biting on wanting to see basketball again. I think LeBron James, I think I've been reading a lot of articles where people are like, oh, this was the last good chance for LeBron James to win another championship. I think that who doesn't think that it's a little selfish though? Who doesn't think that it's all about him wanting to get this championship this year? Because maybe he himself thinks that it's his last chance. Did you not think LeBron James is the one coming out and saying everybody he's talked to wants to finish the season? Did you not think to yourself that maybe it's because he wants to finish the season more so than anybody else?
Man, this is my theory, okay, guys, and I'm a disclaimer. This is just my opinion. This is how I feel. I'm gonna keep it real with everybody. Me personally, LeBron James was the biggest biggest pusher and wanted The Last Dance to come out. And he's been watching The Last Dance. And if you are like me, you have realized that Michael Jordan is GOAT. And anybody that sits here and tells me LeBron James is GOAT, he couldn't even walk a mile in Michael Jordan's shoes. We're watching the history of Michael Jordan. And I think LeBron James is looking at this like, man, I still got a lot of catching up to do. And I better start catching up because my career in the NBA is getting very, very, very short. I mean, let's be real here. He even went and shaved his head bald. So somebody is feeling a certain way about him.
You see that?
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen. If you are not watching this, even if you're in this younger generation of basketball players, you're watching Michael Jordan's skill set, the way he attacked the game, and you're like, oh my God, Michael Jordan was so good. I heard people tell me Michael Jordan was good, but now I'm watching him. I'm like, oh my God, Michael Jordan is really good. This is what the kids are saying. LeBron James knows. And all his little, his I call them LeBron James fans, they're realizing that LeBron James can never come close to Michael Jordan's legacy. The only one, the closest person that could ever come close to Michael Jordan's legacy was Kobe Bryant. And shout out to his daughter who recently would have been turning 14 today or yesterday. Shout out to her. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think LeBron James is sitting there at home thinking to myself, man, when it's all said and done, my legacy is not going to come close to Michael Jordan.
So, man, that's a great point. I'm not going to lie. That is something that, at the end of the day, I think that's the topic that everybody has in hand when they're watching The Last Dance. And we're gonna, I guess we'll go ahead and transition to The Last Dance, right? Yeah. So when you watch this, and you watch the episode 3 was more about Bad Boys and Dennis Rodman, which it mixed the two, and it goes into the little history of what Jordan and Isaiah even had, right? So basically, Jordan was the next man up. After after Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, Jordan was the next man up. He was what the NBA wanted to push. He was what the NBA wanted to champion, basically. But then here comes, and to upset the apple cart, here comes the Bad Boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, and Bill Laimbeer, and they don't give two shits about nobody's legacy. They don't care about nobody's, champion that the NBA wants to prop up. They just, you coming in my wheelhouse, we're going to knock your ass onto the ground. That stuff doesn't exist anymore, but it gave somebody a picture of somebody that had to overcome, because everybody thinks that Michael Jordan just was Michael Jordan from the day he was born, and that's it. They had him. He was like born with the silver spoon and the golden cradle. That didn't happen. People fell in love with Jordan because he was human first, and he became a champion after the fact. He had to overcome. And one of the things that I think that people to this day even have something against LeBron James for is that he was given everything. His nickname coming in to the NBA was King James. He was given the crown before he even stepped a foot or played a minute of an NBA game. So the fact that he had to overcome something with Michael Jordan is what people fell in love with. The fact that LeBron James was given everything was what people hold against LeBron James. The most humanizing thing about LeBron James to me ever was the fact that he left and came back to Cleveland and won it in Cleveland, won the NBA championship for the city of Cleveland. That was it. That was what he had to overcome. And it gave people a chance to finally say, you know what? That's what Michael Jordan had to go through. But guess what? Michael Jordan had to go through so much. He had to go overcome Larry Bird. He had to overcome Magic Johnson. And he had to overcome even Clyde Drexler, who, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about, or we're gonna see in the next Last Dance episode. And also the Bad Boy Pistons. People do not understand how good the Bad Boy Pistons were. Yes, they were somebody that was rough and tough and everything, but Isaiah Thomas is the only one to beat Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. The only point guard to ever do it. So just to put in perspective, Isaiah Thomas, one of the greatest point guards of all time, and it's not even close.
What if in this documentary or these docuseries we found out that Michael Jordan, after spending 7 years in Chicago for the sorriest team in the NBA, who couldn't even get fans to fill its arena because they would rather go and watch an arena soccer team? What if we found out that Michael Jordan just said, you know what, I want to win so bad, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave the Bulls. I don't want to demand a trade, and I want to be traded to the Lakers or traded to the Boston Celtics to form a big three with Bill Russell and or no, I'm sorry, what is it? Who was on the Celtics at the time? We had Larry Bird, you had
Kevin McHale,
Danny
Ainge.
Or when he decided to go and team with Michael with Magic Johnson, and this is what we're watching. Would we sit here and be talking about Michael Jordan being the greatest player of all time?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. So,
no, not at all.
Not at all. Because, and this is what it boils down to. For the LeBron James fans out there, I'm not telling you that LeBron James is not one of the top players in NBA right now. But stop fighting and debating and pulling out these ridiculous statistics that have no earth to this
no relevance.
Relevance to this situation, which is the GOAT status. Michael Jordan is GOAT status. He was not given King Jordan. Matter of fact, the only reason why he was called Air Jordan is because when the man leaped, it looked like he was floating in the air. This man stuck and stayed with the Bulls all the way through, even when Jerry Krause. And think about this. Even when Michael Jordan's father was killed and he retired the first time, he could have gone anywhere else, but he came back to the Bulls. Not only did he come back to the Bulls, but he was dealing with Jerry Krause's GM, just this crazy, sorry-ass GM who wanted to break them up because he was so big about it. But he stuck with it. Even when Phil Jackson no longer wanted to give him the ball and told him you have to be more of a team player, which is a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize that Michael Jordan truly was a team player. He really did, coexist with other players and even with their eccentric, personalities. He evolved. The thing about Michael Jordan is we're witnessing it, and I can't wait for episode 5 and 6. We're seeing firsthand why Michael Jordan is considered the greatest of all time.
Did you not feel like, damn, how important is Michael Jordan to the overall scheme of what the Bulls were doing? So when Dennis Rodman came in and he said, I need a vacation, right? In the middle of a season. Think about that. I need a vacation in the middle of the season. They're in the playoff hunt, right? So Dennis Rodman says, I need a vacation. Phil Jackson doesn't go to the ownership. Phil Jackson doesn't go to the GM. He goes to, hey, Michael, I need to talk to you upstairs in my office. Can you come up? I need some help. Cool. Michael Jordan walks up, goes into the office, sits down. There's Dennis Rodman in the chair. Hey, Mike, Dennis is telling me that he needs a vacation. Michael Jordan's like, the fuck are you talking about? But the fact that he was the one called into the office to tell, hey, what do you think? Should we give him a vacation? And Michael Jordan still was like, I need a fucking vacation, but, well, I guess so. That shit was so classic to me. I was just like, I couldn't believe it.
I think also too, and I'm so happy, and you touched on it too, is I think they're actually doing a really good job of giving Dennis Rodman his dues and how special he was. And even, I completely forgot. I didn't even know. I mean, not that I can't remember ever that Scottie Pippen sat out for 33 games because he was in his feelings and left the which is foreshadowing to what I'm about to bring up in a second. But literally, he was in his feelings, and Dennis Rodman, who messed up that one time, had just had a bad game where he really pissed off Michael Jordan. And even though Dennis Rodman didn't say sorry, they figured out a way by him coming to his hotel room, buying a cigar. That's his way of saying, I'm sorry, Mike. He was dedicated, and he became Michael Jordan's like second-hand dude. He became
for sure.
He became the Batman. He became Robin to Batman. And I just, I think people fail to realize, yes, Dennis Rodman wasn't a scorer, but what he did defensively, what he did in rebounding, what he did overall to bring that energy. Man, I can't wait to go back to Vegas so I can wear 91. That's all I gotta say.
How many have you rewatched the episodes? I've watched it like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, I've watched them 3 times each episode. Yeah, yeah, it's good shit.
The one thing that I thought was hilarious was the fact that they gave him 48 hours and then he passed it by like another 48 hours, and then finally Michael Jordan's like, "Hey, that's enough." So they go over to go get Dennis Rodman, and literally Michael Jordan grabs his nose rings and pulls them out the hotel apartment, whatever he was at. But I thought that was classic, or something that the director said off air when I was listening to the podcast of The Last Dance, which that in itself was pretty cool. Check that out with Jalen Rose as well. Shout out. But man, so this next Last Dance episode is supposedly going to focus on Clyde Drexler and the whole Trailblazers versus Michael Jordan. I think they were going for their, I want to say second championship too. So how much influence do you think Michael Jordan has compared to, say, and I hate to always compare the two, but it's the only comparison available. How much influence to that team does he have compared to what LeBron James has with like when he had with Cleveland or when he had with the Lakers, apparently?
Well, at the end of the day, I've always said this: the one thing LeBron James has never had is had a real coach lead him. It's the teams have always basically revolved around LeBron James. And then I know somebody will argue, well, then the Bulls revolve around Michael Jordan to a point up into Doug Collins. But once Phil Jackson came in,
right,
he told him, you're no longer going to be the leading scorer in the NBA.
Right.
If you really want to win championships, you're going to have to stay committed to this triangle offense, which means the ball does. And it was a funny thing where he says, I'm okay with that, but I don't want the last 5 seconds where the ball's in Bill Cartwright's hand, And then he says, there's, and then they told him like, there's no
I in team.
No I in team. And he said, but there's an I in win. So I think that's hilarious. I think that LeBron James has been able to manipulate.
But that also, man, that little saying right there when it just makes you show how ruthless Kobe Bryant was when he says, but there's an ME in that motherfucker.
There's an ME. Yeah, man. I think with LeBron James, he just found a way to kind of like manipulate and put pressure on the GM to do what he wants or what he feels is what's right, or what he feels like should be what's best for him. And a lot of it just feels like he's just wanting to align himself up with other superstars. I think Michael Jordan took and made Dennis Rodman a bigger superstar. He made Scottie Pippen a bigger superstar. And the reason why I feel like Michael Jordan now more than ever is a better teammate, because he made everybody around him so much better. Like I just feel at the end of the day, you can see it in the result, and he was able also to humble himself and follow directions from Phil Jackson, which says a whole lot about Michael Jordan overall as a person.
How much do you think that it was Phil Jackson that maybe took his game to another level, but also how good of a coach does Phil Jackson really is when he's had nothing but talented players? When you look back at the greatest coaches, you got Popovich, you got Phil Jackson, you got even Red Auerbach. I could go through a couple more, but Phil Jackson almost seems like he's just been lucky. So how much of it is his coaching style? How much of it is him actually being able to get the most out of his players, or just and how much of it is just him being surrounded with the best talent in the world.
Well, we've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in almost every sport. You can stack up your team. You can put the best players. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to coaching. Who's the leader? Yes, Phil Jackson has been very blessed to, have Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and won 6 championships, and then later on win 3 more championships with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. The thing is, all those players I mentioned had eccentric and very hard to manage personalities. And that's what he did. He learned how to manage egos to where he got the best results out of them. There's a lot of players in the NBA today where they can't take any direction from a head coach because they feel like they're the smarter, they're better, they make more money. They're not going to hear what the coach has to say. You're just a coach. You're just basically filling in a position that's needed. And you've seen over the years the players who, you brought up Popovich. He's another great coach that's managed personalities. You know what I mean? This is the system. This is what we're going to run. If you really want to be great, if you really want to achieve greatness and put your name in the history books by being a champion, we got to follow this process. And I think that's what Phil Jackson did. He did it better than anybody. You know what I mean?
So we got the greatest player of all time. We got the greatest coach of all time. Somebody just told me that, we can all agree that the greatest sidekick, and I don't mean to, in that no way, disparaging way, am I saying that Scottie Pippen is something beneath somebody else when I tell him he's the greatest sidekick of all time. We can all agree on that, right?
I guess.
Scottie Pippen is the greatest sidekick of all time.
Eh.
Who else would you compare him to?
Me? I'm the greatest sidekick. I'm the greatest sidekick, baby. I'm the greatest sidekick.
My man, Christopher C. Rodriguez. Yes, sir. But always, baby. But no, the greatest role player of all time. Tell me. Somebody just said that to me, and it made me think. Tell me it's not Dennis Rodman. Greatest role player of all time.
I think to call him a role player minimizes what he really did. I think he's the greatest defensive player and greatest rebounder in the NBA history for what he did. And just not just that, but I think he brought the most energy to the game than anybody else has. I don't think he was a role player. I think that Dennis Rodman is definitely, I would say, probably the most underappreciated horse there's ever been. I mean, what he said, you don't put a saddle on a Mustang. That's what Dennis Rodman was, man.
100%. And I'll finish that with this. I told you earlier, man, Dennis Rodman needs a documentary. As good as Rodman was for 30 for 30, he needs a documentary that really, really does him justice. For the fact that these stories are still coming out in The Last Dance, and you get a perspective of great people talking about Dennis Rodman themselves, I think that it leaves so much room for an even better documentary with Dennis Rodman to himself. I think there's so much more to uncover, so much more to unearth. That episode 3 left me wanting so much more. If it could be a 10-part series, so be it. I don't care, but I want to. I've already went back and watched the Dennis Rodman documentary for 30 for 30, and it still wasn't enough. I need more.
Absolutely. Yeah, real fast, man. For all those people out there that have been crying and boo-hooing, because I was a little sad that I didn't know how bad Scottie Pippen's contract was. But I've been on record of saying fuck Scottie Pippen, and there's a reason why I say that. Because when Michael Jordan and the Bulls break up, Scottie Pippen ended up signing a 5-year, $67 million deal with the Houston Rockets. And then he quit on the Rockets after 50 games. He started a beef with Charles Barkley. And then he wanted to be traded to the Lakers to join Phil Jackson. It was just a catastrophe. And that was the year that the NBA season had a lockout. So we didn't even finish the whole season. And then we ended up having to trade him because he threw a hissy fit. And then after that, man, you really didn't really see.
But how do you go from Michael Jordan to Charles Barkley? You can't do that. You see how great Michael Jordan was. He didn't take shit from nobody, but he also didn't take shit from himself. He was one of the greatest mental warriors as an athlete as you've ever seen besides Kobe Bryant. Him and Kobe Bryant, and then there's everybody else. You went from basically Michael Jordan to Shaquille O'Neal. And don't get me wrong, Charles Barkley is a great player. Shaquille O'Neal was great. They were great players, but they were big. They were big, and there's a reason they got big and are bigger to this day.
Actually, the Rockets were still playing the ball through Hakeem first. And I want to say this too, is that he wanted a 5-year, $67 million contract, right? This is with that contract today, you would think this is somebody who's going to come in there and be a superstar. This just proves that Scottie Pippen's greatness was all dependent on being led to greatness. That means he had to have a Michael Jordan to lead him to greatness. Because other than that, he was just average.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, man, you got anything else to add? I think we covered everything. I don't know. You know, baseball has really been tight-knit. They don't want to. They haven't said anything about restarting. The NFL, for all intents and purposes, looks like they're all ships to go. You know, I haven't even heard of them postponing anything. The NBA about to see what they can do to restart. Anything else, Chris?
Well, I just got 2 shout-outs real fast. Number one, I got the honor and invite to be on an up-and-coming, it's already with 3 episodes in. Well, this will be the 3rd episode in to Grown Talk. You can check it on YouTube with Andrew Ton. It's basically a grown conversation. Me and him got to sit down and talk about being men, being husbands, being fathers. It was a great show. Can't wait to see it. And like I said, it is a really awesome show. Andrew Ton is amazing. But I also want to give a shout out.
That link, baby.
I also want to give a shout out to our number 1 fan, Paul Francis. Reasons why I'm giving Paul Francis a big shout out, because he called me today and let me know him and Christina are gonna have a baby. So, yay! I get to be godfather. So I'm like super pumped about this. Yeah, shit. So,
hey, congratulations, Paul, man. Woo!
Proud of you, brother.
Man, just don't mess it up. You only get one shot. All right, man, fellas. Khoa, man, we really had to tone you down today, bro. We couldn't get you to stop talking. But
it's okay, man. They can't handle me. Next time.
That's the Dennis Rodman right there.
That's our Dennis Rodman. Hey,
I'm gonna dye my hair the same color as it is.
That'd be good. All right, fellas. I think we're good, man. Anything else?
Nah, man. Let's. Can Sunday come already so we can watch The Last Dance? Good Lord.
For sure. All right, fellas. I'm out, man. Have a good weekend. Hey, you looking like LeBron James there, bro. Nice.
No, LeBron James looking like me, fool. Get it right.
All right, I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.